Okay, so we've got a nice weather window. All the crops are just not quite ready, but that's okay because neither am I. The other thing left is the sprayer setup on the mower. That's my big thing this year, is something I really want to experiment with. Sprayer is currently at the Fabricator neighbors, getting a mount made for the rear end of it so that the tank can be mounted there and carry the weight safely. That's going to take a day or so. While we're waiting for that, the other part of that is, well, everything that hooks to the tank, and that was what I have to figure out. And I have no experience with sprayers whatsoever, other than, a little ATV sprayer where you spot sprayer, a little pump up one used for your yard. So it's going to be a learning curve for me for sure. Thankfully, I had somebody help me out. They've given me a diagram and a parts list. I ordered all my stuff. I'm going to try to get all this to look like this. It's all as one big unit. Then we're going to try and figure out how we're going to mount it on the mower where we can see it and where we can access the pressure regulator easily, so we can change and make adjustments on the pressures. Don't know what I'm doing, so we're going to see if we can figure this thing out. So have fun watching this. I cracked this fitting and I tightened that in. So since that store in particular is an hour away, round trip, it's JB Weld Day. Little dab will do. Let that sit upright so it doesn't run off of there somehow. Let it dry. I got a little plate that I mounted the main assembly to, so hopefully be able to pop a couple holes in this, maybe a couple U-bolts or something, to mount this on a rail or something right outside the cab where we can see the pressure gauge and easily adjust the pressure. We'll have to get into all that whole how we're going to wire it and all that stuff when we get it back here. We got the mower back from the neighbor, and he has got our tank mounted on. Then we can dive into figuring out where we're going to mount the pump, the filter, and then that regulator flow body assembly and the electrical to be able to turn it all on. So here we go. All right, so I'm pretty sure I know what I need to mount this. Pretty sure I know what I need to mount the filter, and I'm pretty sure I have locations figured out. I do believe I even figured out a location for this motor, since we can mount it vertically. I'm going to mount whatever I can before I go to the hardware store in case there's anything else that pops up that I need. Still have to create the sprayer bar for the spray nozzles. Not sure if this pipe is big enough, but we'll get into that. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to create kind of a template, or try anyway, to be able to drill the holes properly for this motor. There we go. Finish poking these. Got the mower halfway in the shop here. And my plan is to mount the filter housing here, hanging down, just enough room for the bolts, and up on this side to get that pump mounted about here somehow. All right, so I was tinkering around with the locations and ideas I had, and I started looking at some of my scrap steel to figure out exactly how I was going to do that. And lo and behold, it's kind of like that commercial where it's like that dad who searches for that specific piece of wood with his son, and it's like he's been saving it for 15 years or whatever, and he finally gets to use it. Well, this is my piece of steel that I've been holding on to because it was a good thick piece of flat steel that I could cut whatever I wanted out of. But filter's right here. It's going to come out into the pump here, and then we'll go back out here. And to control it, I can mount my relay from the switch on that board as well, or on that plate as well. And here's the cool thing, especially if we clean this piece of metal up, paint it black, you would almost not even know that it's supposed to be there, because a couple bolt holes in the frame, and we're gonna mount all this up, so I'm excited to get on that part. Well, I got that bracket all drilled and painted up. I'm waiting for it to dry. And while that was only 8 holes, doing that with a drill on thicker metal is not all that fun. And back to the whole shop setup thing, I would love to get this place organized, because we do have, and it's not fancy or expensive, our little benchtop drill press. That probably would have made drilling those holes a whole lot easier on me. But I'm excited to get this bracket put on, get this thing mounted up, so that so when the preservative inoculant does get here, we're ready to just pour it in and go. I would say, well, I'll call it 1/3 of the system is done. The main plumbing from the tank all the way up to the floats is done. I'll show you here. We've got our 1/4 turn ball, shut it off and on, return line. They run right next to the mower here. I don't know if you guys can see it. Then they run up there, and here's our plate we made that we were working on. So we got our filter and our pump mounted up, painted up, looks pretty good. This is a wire that doesn't get power until I turn the switch on in the cab, which means it's the wire that needs to go up here to the pump, not the one that needs a fuse to go to the battery. Doggone it. Alright, take 2. Yes, I know that's an odd way to do soldering, but in my experience, if you do it right, you don't melt anything, and it's a whole lot faster than a soldering iron. I very much so like open flame. Obviously, if you work on computers or something, that probably wouldn't work, but for this, it works mighty fine. Getting into the last stages of the sprayer. And when I get this all done, I'll do a complete overview to show you guys how I did it, where it's mounted and all that stuff. But the last part that I haven't done yet now, the wiring's done. I have to go from the regulator to the spray bar. And we're gonna use 1/4 inch lines to the spray nozzles. And I've got a 3/4 inch line that you saw laying on the hood. That is to run the 1/4 inch lines inside. I have to protect them. We're gonna use to go through the top of the mower deck, so I can figure out where I set it. There you go. We're gonna attach our 3/4 inch hose to this brass fitting street elbow to go down through the hood. An O-ring. I had a friend tell me that was a good idea to put an O-ring or some sort of protector in between it and the steel shield, just to help it from messing up the paint and stuff on there. And then we're gonna take, since pipe thread doesn't really have a nut you can use, we got this cap. We're gonna cut the cap part off and use the nut basically to hold that on the hood, which I'll show you all this later. That will feed the lines down to this bar. We'll cut a hole in the middle and line it with hose to make sure there's no cut points for the lines coming in. And then one line this way, one line that way. And we'll have our spray nozzle mounted on either end inside there. And spray pattern is not super critical. We want to get it close, but it's not super critical because all the turbulence underneath there with the turtle spinning and going crazy, it's going to create a huge mist and it's going to cover everything. But we've got it pretty close to what's this word I'm looking, the spacing. That's what I'm looking for. Haha, I finally figured out the word. The spacing of these nozzles is roughly 1/3 of the way in from the end of the conditioning rolls in the back. So you've basically got 1/3, a gap of 1/3, a nozzle, and then another 1/3. So we should have even coverage across there. But then also with all the turbulence, it should really spread things out. So we're gonna put this all together, try and get it installed, and show you what we're working with here. There we go. Now when the 1/4 inch lines come down and turn, there won't be any sharp edges for them to get cut on, especially because you won't be able to see this once it's mounted. All right, y'all, it got very windy outside, so we moved the mower to the big shed. Show you the final result. I am so stoked. I love how this looks. We start in the back here. We've got our tank. Hoses are nice and tucked up. We come underneath the hood. We got our filter and pump mounted. with our wiring and relay and fuse in there. The hoses are nicely tucked up under here and they go underneath our platform. We come up to the cab area. We've got our one toggle switch here, sprayer on, sprayer off. Lights up orange. It has power only when the key is on, so we can't forget to shut it off, which is great. And then you can see from inside here, when we're driving, we can see our pressure gauge, our float balls, and our pressure adjustment. Those hoses then go down through there are 2 1/4-inch lines there. They go down through a 3/4 inch hose right across the hood of the mower into the front. So we'll go down there and look at that real quick, if I don't hit my head here. So following our line down the front, we come right up here, hose clamped it onto a street elbow just to make sure it's nice and secure, doesn't wiggle around on us. Into our homemade pipe with our little protectors. We'll see if those stay on there with all the turbulence or not. And then one nozzle over there and one over here, shooting straight back to the conditioner rolls to create a nice fine mist under here to coat all of the hay as it comes through, as it is cut, so that it is protected from excessive sweating, mold, mildew, all those things. Pre-treated before it hits the baler, and because it is not an acid, it just feeds the active bacteria in the plant. It's safe for all animals, it's safe for the equipment, it's not going to rust and corrode anything. Super simple setup, and I am really excited to give this a try. Hopefully whenever the weather clears up, because we've got some wicked pop-up storms going on. Thanks for tuning in and watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the content. Like, comment, subscribe, let us know how you feel, what you think of it, and we'll see you on the next one.